JBites, we are back once again for 23 categories in 23 minutes. It's our annual Oscar slugfest with the one and only our managing director, Chris Beachum, and myself. I'm Rob Licuria. Chris, welcome back.
Yeah, another Oscar season is almost over.
I know, right? Like, it's been a pretty long slog. You were saying earlier offline, not as long as last year, but we are almost at the finish line. And, you know, everybody remember, we are the OG guys. We were here right when Gold Derby was a twinkle in Tom O'Neill's eye. And look how far we've all come. You know what, Chris, we don't have a lot of time. I really want to get stuck into this. I am dying to know what you think about some of these really difficult categories to predict. So let's start with the big one, Best Picture. This has been back and forth for some time between the front runners, and we've all been waiting for PGA. So how about I just hand it over to you? What do you think is going to win now that we've seen pretty much all the big precursors?
I think as of 3 weeks ago, it could have been CODA, it could have been Power of the Dog, it could have been West Side Story, it could have been Belfast, maybe even Dune, because it's probably going to win the most awards. I do think it's now down to two. Would you agree there? It's either CODA or Power of the Dog. I've thought Power of the Dog for a while now, and BAFTA kind of reconfirmed that for me, but CODA has now won Screen Actors Guild main prize, which is different than Best Picture, but still, that's important. It's won PGA and it's won Writers Guild. That's three huge branches of the Academy. And the PGA follows the same voting system for picture as does the Oscars voters. So I'm going with CODA. I think it's got the most passion.
Yeah, I am a big fan of both, and I'd be happy for either to win. I thought Power of the Dog pretty much had this because people who admire it and love it really, really do so and think it's a masterpiece. But CODA has a lot of passion, you're right. And that PGA win, that's a huge factor. And I have to remember, I remind myself every year, remember last year and the year before when you said to yourself, don't overthink this. If the PGA goes a certain way, and that film has also maybe won at SAG and it's got the passion, just go for it. It's probably going to win. It feels like Moonlight. It feels like Green Book. I think it's going to be CODA. And that'll be pretty cool to see that win.
Well, let me say one thing about each film, because I know we've got our 23 minutes. We got to keep moving along. And I promise you, to anybody watching, we will do some really short, there's some categories that really don't require much discussion. But I've talked to several voters over the past 2 weeks. You're going to see a lot of these secret voter items, but some don't even want to go on the record for those, and they just talk. And one thing I heard about Power of the Dog, one voter told me that he gets in discussions with friends of his that are voters, and he said he talked about 20 people in the last week, and almost all of them are going Power of the Dog, as he was, for picture. It's the movie that causes them to talk the most, trying to figure out, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does the ending mean? Who did what? So that's a point for Power of the Dog winning. But I heard from another voter that told me on CODA, said he had talked to several voters, he or she, I'm not giving he's or she's away, said most of his friends, her friends, did not know much about CODA even before nominations came out. It's been a late breaking, and they felt like the lack of directing, the lack of editing, the lack of maybe being somewhere else, maybe getting Marlee Matlin in, was more of a factor of people not having seen it, and now they've all seen it. So that, if you're just saying CODA can't win because of editing or directing, I think it might have gotten into at least one of those, maybe two of those, given a little bit more time.
Yeah, that's a huge factor. So look, I think this is still down to the wire, but I think we're both going with CODA, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that selection. Now, Best Director, I think, is a bit more of a shoe-in for Jane Campion. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, Jane Campion's got this. Everybody I've talked to says Jane Campion. It's interesting, though, how some told me, I don't know what I would have done had Denis Villeneuve been here, because they're voting for it in most of the crafts categories, usually meaning they love the director, like, you know, Gravity or some of these others. So one specifically I was just typing up said, it's Jane Campion all the way, and said, but I don't know what I would have done if Denis had been here.
You know what, mate? Just because you and I are very similar, I watched the 1994 Oscars last night just for old time's sake when Jane Campion lost to Steven Spielberg. It's one of my favorite Oscar ceremonies. That's when I really got stuck into film, especially Australian, New Zealand film. I'm so thrilled that she's probably going to win this award. I just think she's just such an amazing director. So I'm so looking forward to that. So I think that's pretty much in the bag. The best actress, that is really difficult. I still think it's difficult. I'm going with Jessica Chastain. I think that's the safe bet. I've been going with Kristen Stewart from the get-go, from the moment this season started, right up until probably 3 days ago, I was with Kristen Stewart. But I just thought, when I knew we were going to have this discussion, and I just thought, I don't really think I have an argument with a straight face to say to Chris, I think I'm going to have to go with Jessica Chastain because it's a safe bet. What about you?
It's a brutal category. You've got 3 past winners, and Jessica's been up. This is her 3rd or 4th time. Kristen Stewart, her 1st time. I don't think it's Olivia Colman, as we suspected a long time back.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Nicole Kidman anymore, who won the Globe. I think it's reasonable to say the other 3 have a shot. Nobody can ride the coattails of a Best Picture, though, because like Frances McDormand, none of us thought Frances had it last year. She had just won recently, but being in the Best Picture frontrunner helped her last year. None of these 5 are even in a Best Picture nominee, so that doesn't help anybody. I'm going Jessica. I think the SAG Award helped a whole lot. A lot of similar voters in the acting branch as well as the SAG. The one that I think now is in second, though, and this is based on all my conversations, is not Kristen Stewart, but Penelope Cruz. Now, Penelope's problem is I don't know that they didn't really have much of a reason to watch that film if they haven't had time. People say they watch everything, but they don't. If it had been in international category, which it wasn't eligible, maybe they would have watched it, but I don't think everybody watched it. So it is in score, but anyway, I think it's Jessica, and I think it's well-deserved, and I think it's not just for this performance, but also for a good last, 12, 15 years.
Yeah, I think for Jessica, a lot of it will have to do with this overdue factor. Not overdue, but
and they love people that sink into a role and just disappear, like Renee Zellweger and Judy.
Yeah, it's transformative. But Kristen and Penelope, there's not a lot of arguments except for if you see it, it's undeniable that their performances are so incredible. I think that's all they have.
Kristen will be back.
Yeah, she will be back, and she was amazing, and I'd be voting for hers. Best actor, I've been trying to make arguments for Andrew Garfield, for Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm hoping that Benedict Cumberbatch can win this, but it looks like a Will Smith win all the way. He's won everything he needs. He's in the Best Picture nominee. Do you think Will Smith has this in the bag?
I do. I've been pushing Andrew Garfield the whole season because I thought that was the movie of the year, and it's not up for Best Picture, and I thought it was the performance of the year. I mean, just brilliant, all the things he was able to come up with and just be so engaging and singing and dancing and the movement and just
incredible.
If that performance isn't pitch perfect, you don't even want to see that movie. So Will Smith, the SAG win, like Jessica Chastain, is big, but it's even bigger that he won BAFTA over Benedict Cumberbatch, the local hometown boy. I mean, that was really, really, really big.
It was. Look, I don't think there's much more to say. I feel how you feel about Andrew Garfield is how I feel about Benedict Cumberbatch. In Best Supporting Actress, I think Katrina Balfe. Sorry, no, she wasn't nominated. Ariana DeBose has this in the bag, and you know what? She bloody well deserves it because, gosh, she's incredible in West Side Story.
Yeah, I don't think there's much discussion here. She swept the whole season. The same role won 60 years ago for Rita Moreno. So I just hope Rita's there. I just would like to see her face in the audience or somewhere, maybe that night on stage. Anyway, I think that's an easy one to pick.
Yeah, with Best Supporting Actor, before the precursors started to hit us one after the other, I would have said Cody Smith-McPhee has this one, but Troy Kotzer has really pulled out, the big guns. And God, we all love him. He's so lovable, and he's done such a great job on this whole campaign trail. He's wonderful in CODA. He's winning this, but gosh, Cody Smith-McPhee, I hope he's back soon because what a performance in The Power of the Dog.
Well, he's got a big career in front of him, and he'll be a leading actor very soon, I'm sure. when SAG was happening, Marcus Dixon and Denton Davidson were here. We watched it all together, and Troy was one of the first wins of the night.
Yeah.
Was that he gave his speech, and we all looked at each other because at that point, that's over 3 weeks ago. We all thought it was still Cody. We all looked at each other and went, Troy just won the Oscar. Not because of SAG win, but because of his speech and how charming he is. And he's charmed everybody the whole season.
Oh, he's wonderful. I just am such a big fan of his. All right, let's move on. Best adapted screenplay. I want to go with that one first. Look, I think it's CODA versus Power of the Dog. I would have said Maggie Gyllenhaal a little while ago, but I think it's become a two-horse race. And I feel like Sian Heder has really won what she needed. I know Power of the Dog wasn't eligible at WGA. I just feel like Sian Heder going to win this one. What do you think?
We don't know when this will be presented during the ceremony, but if CODA wins screenplay, then you don't have much suspense on the final award of the night. It's going to be CODA. If Power of the Dog wins, I could still see CODA winning picture, but a couple of voters reminded me that Sean is not eligible for Best Picture, but Jane, they would say, I'm going to go maybe with CODA on screenplay because I'm giving Jane directing. And if picture goes to Power, Jane also gets one for producing. So I don't think Writers Guild helped us much here because Power of the Dog was not eligible. CODA was going to be an easy winner, I think, for Writers Guild. The fact that CODA won BAFTA when they ultimately loved Jane and they loved the movie Power of the Dog for picture, that told me something. I'm going with CODA. I'm a little surprised at myself, but I'm going with CODA.
Yeah, I agree. Now, with Best Original Screenplay, Licorice Pizza lost the WGA to Don't Look Up. Both are Best
And they were both eligible.
Yeah, both Best Picture nominees. Belfast was not eligible. So I still think they're going to award Kenneth Branagh somewhere for his passion project, and I think he will win. Ultimately, he will win Best Original Screenplay. This one's a killer. What do you think?
Well, it could be any of those three. I've had all of those mentioned to me on the secret ballots, and also just when I was talking to people. More Don't Look Ups than I expected, and that was a surprise because Paul Thomas Anderson, is your writer's writer. One of those writers in the industry that people just love. So the fact that he didn't win Writers Guild is kind of a big deal. I'm kind of thinking Adam McKay won sort of recently. Paul Thomas Anderson's never won an Oscar either, so this could be his time. And I can't believe we're agreeing here. I ultimately went with Belfast. This is one of my sort of surprises. It won the Critics' Choice, which doesn't mean all that much. But here's my reason. I think it's one of those anyway, and it's really the only place they can award Belfast ultimately. I mean, it might surprise somewhere, but this is probably the spot. What's the biggest branch of the Academy?
Actors.
And what's Kenneth Branagh been most of his career?
Exactly.
And how many actors turned writers have won in recent years? Everybody from Emerald Fennell to Jordan Peele. So I'm wondering if they want, they all think of themselves as, I could write my own screenplay one day, all of these actors. And I think they like to reward an actor in screenplay when they have a good opportunity.
Yeah, it's such a personal thing for him. It's also a beautiful screenplay. Anyway, I agree with you. Now, cinematography is giving me a bit of heartburn. Over the last 10 years, 4 times the ASC hasn't matched up with the Oscars. So Greg Fraser just won for Dune. He hasn't won an Oscar. He won an ASC for Lion back in, I think it was in 2016. So I'm thinking just because he won does not necessarily mean he has the Oscar in the bag. I'm actually concerned that I don't think Power of the Dog's walking away with just Jane Campion and that's it. I think it's going to win more than one. That's my opinion. And I think that Ari Wegner will surprise and win this category, and that's what I'm going with. What about you?
I've got Dune. Here's where we disagree. I would say if you've got some kind of advantage in campaigning, whatever that might be, never won before, never this, never that, first time ever, Ari would be the first ever female cinematographer winner at the Oscars, and they haven't pushed that narrative.
I know.
If voters knew that, I think she would win easily, but it hasn't been pushed. I think
Dune
Dune winning at the cinematographers over the weekend is a big deal. And if Jane winds up being the only win for directing for Power of the Dog, I only found this out this morning. It's the first time since The Graduate, back in the late 60s, that a film wins directing and nothing else.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it's either going to win like 3. It's going to win screenplay, directing, and picture. Jane walks away with 3, or it's going to win 1, in my opinion.
Okay, because I think it has a chance in a few of the other below the lines, but I think in cinematography we're going to see a surprise. Obviously, the last time we didn't get a matchup was Cold War and Roma in 2018. So let's see what happens. Now, costume design I think is pretty straightforward. Although I think the Dune costumes are absolutely breathtaking, I think this is going to Cruella. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah, on some of these we need to fly along. I'd say Cruella on costume design. It's won pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. Now with editing, that one's tricky. You've got the sound and editing matchup. You've got that close link like the Matrix and the Bourne Ultimatum. Dune hasn't won any major precursors though with sound. That's slightly problematic. But
with editing.
Yes. So I just think with editing, you've got King Richard won the Ace. So did Tick Tick Boom. Power of the Dog, this is where they could reward it as well. Peter Shabbaris did an amazing job, another Aussie. By the way, the 2 Aussies in cinematography are the ones that are battling it out. A lot of Aussies this year. And I don't know. I just think Power of the Dog is going to do better than we expect. So I'm going with Dune, but I'm wavering. What about you?
What you just said about Dune made me rethink. I thought it would win editing. It won editing at the Gold Derby Awards. That's true. It hasn't won editing anywhere else the whole season. Anyway. You know what? I'm going with my old theory. Most editing, and the most edited. I mean, all these have really good editing. Now, I would go with Tick Tick Boom if it was a Best Picture nominee, because I think truly it is the most editing. But that rarely happens that an editing is not in Best Picture. It happens, but not. It's been a while. I'm going King Richard.
Okay.
The tennis matches alone, the tennis practices alone. I think of that as most editing among the Best Picture nominees. I also think they're going to want to pair up Will Smith with something else. I don't know why, but it just has, there's a feeling to me that it might win something else along the way.
It's a loved film. So look, I mean, kudos to the editing.
This is like the only category where I'm picking something that's down like in 3rd place.
Yeah, I have it in 4th, but I just think the editing branch did a great job here. They're all very well edited films. So I'm happy with any of them winning, but I think it'll be Dune. I'm hoping it'll be Power of the Dog. Makeup and hairstyling, I've gone back and forth on this with Dune, Cruella, Isa Tammy Faye. Even Coming to America, I think House of Gucci is probably out. I'm going with Isa Tammy Faye. I think it's pretty safe. Can you believe it's going to walk away with 2 awards though? Really?
Well, I think it walks away with 0, or I think it walks away with 2. If it doesn't win makeup like early in the evening, I don't know that Jessica's going to win. It's won, and winning at BAFTA was not easy because Jessica wasn't even nominated. It's a very American story, American project.
That's right.
So I think it's pretty safe here.
Yeah. Okay. Production design. I could have said Nightmare Alley because it's just so incredible. Even Tragedy of Macbeth, but I think Dune has this one.
Yeah. Let's keep moving. We got 5 minutes. 5 minutes left. Production design, and also your buddy Hans Zimmer. Dune's going to win score. Forever, I thought it was going to be Power of the Dog, but Hans has won everywhere he needed to win.
I know, and he needs his 2nd Oscar. Best songs between Billie Eilish and Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm going with Dos Oruguitas. What about you?
Quite a few of our editors have moved to that because it's been the #1 soundtrack in America for weeks. And Marcus says they don't know that they don't know that they're not voting for the Bruno song. So I'm still going with Billie Eilish. James Bond has won the last 2 times there's been a James Bond movie. One was incredible, and one was the weakest song winner maybe in the last dozen years. And Billie Eilish, since she's hit the ground with her first album, has won almost everything she's ever been up for.
Incredible.
So I'm going with that as, holding Lin-Manuel back from getting his EGOT.
Yeah, and either one will make my kids very happy. Best sound, Dune.
Yeah, we could just say sound and visual effects for Dune. That's easy. Really, and then Canto, animation. Animation
and Canto. Documentary, I'm going with Flea. I think it has 3 nominations. I'm hoping it will win at least one of them. What about you? Summer of Soul?
No, I'm really thinking Summer of Soul. Again, the fact that it won BAFTA, I think, was very telling.
Yeah.
A very, American type project. The one to watch out for to me is not Flea. I've got it in third. Attica
Yeah.
won at the DGA. So that's a story of the older voters really know well in terms of a real life story. So I think Attica has a shot there.
Yeah. International film. I would like to say The Worst Person in the World, but this is Drive My Car in an Absolute Heartbeat.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything winning but that. It's swept through the whole season.
Absolutely.
And then the shorts, that's
the shorts,
always
I've tried to watch some. I try to read what other people think. This week's hard for me. I'm going with Robin, Audible, and The Long Goodbye. What about you?
We're agreeing on two. Every year I agonize over the shorts, and every year I get 1 out of 3. Every single year. If you're wanting to know what to pick on shorts, don't look at mine. Look at Joyce Ng. Joyce often has 3 out of 3. Tariq Khan also on the experts often has 3 out of 3. I decided this year, rather than stress over it, I got a lot going on. I'm going with the odds on 2 of them, which would be The Long Goodbye. Riz Ahmed gets an Oscar if The Long Goodbye wins. And The Queen of Basketball, since Dear Basketball won for Kobe Bryant not all that long ago. I'm going with that. And then I'm going with Robin, which I think is in second place in our odds. I was just very compelled by it. And all of these have done interviews with us, but that particular interview was quite fun and funny. And I thought maybe they could pull this off.
Yeah, okay. I think that's pretty good reasoning. We have 1 minute exactly. Chris, what are your final thoughts?
I've not been real thrilled with the presenter lineups that I've been publishing. It seems like they're having trouble getting the big names to come present. That could be because they moved some categories. It could be still people concerned about health. It could be anything, but it doesn't feel like it's the show they were wanting to put together. And I hope to be wrong because I record all these and keep them for decades. And I've got decades of Oscars back to the 70s. So I want it to be incredible. And none of us are happy about the categories being moved.
No.
So I've got trepidations a little bit.
Yeah.
And by the way, on the day of, Rob's hosting our pre-show, which will be 2 to 4 Pacific, not 3 to 5. We thought we better end the pre-show as everybody sits down in the auditorium, even though we don't see that hour from 4 to 5. We would like to give predictions, and we'll be too consumed with other things going on, categories being leaked and so forth. So 2 to 4, Rob hosts our pre-show on Sunday, and then Matt Noble will host the post-show afterwards. I'm sure there will be plenty of surprises and presenters to talk about. Always. But Rob, it's not confirmed, but one of your all-time favorite movies, it sounds like they're getting the band back together on The Godfather.
What a moment to see the Godfather crew back. I will be probably in tears. And on that note, I'm in tears for this whole damn thing. I hope it's a good show. Last year was very disappointing for me personally, the way they did it. I'm looking forward to a good show. We deserve it, Chris. And everybody, don't forget, make your predictions. Keep them updated right to the last second. We'll be back on Oscar Day. And in the meantime, everybody, you have a great day and we'll see you soon.